Hey friends, what's up? And welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf. Do you get what that is? Daf. Today we're studying Daf. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Aleph of masechta Taanis. Daf 31, the final Daf of masechta Taanis. Friends, when I think back on masechta Taanis, I just think about being sick. Yeah, what do you guys think about? Gosh, man, this thing has been no joke. I don't know what in the world happened. I was sick for like 2 weeks. Then I got that booster thing. I don't know, maybe it just wiped out whatever progress I had made. Insanity. Anyways, friends, we're oh gosh, wow, this is really something else, but I think I'll be alright. Anyways, today we're wrapping up masechta Taanis. It's not such a big daf, so you don't have to listen to me cough for so long. And we're going to discuss shtickle Yom Kippur for a second, but really Tu B'Av is really the main focus of the rest of the masechta. What exactly was so special about Tu B'Av? So it's very interesting. So friends, let's jump in. We're on Daf Lamed Amud Beis, about 7-8 lines before it gets wide. So, or maybe like 10 or so. Amr Shimon ben Gamliel says, "Oh right, I forgot. I had that trick that I devised last week. You breathe in, and then it helps. So I'll do that. Whenever I'm gonna cough, just breathe in. Right? Okay. Let's try it right now. Right. There was that. Taco works very nicely, except when it doesn't. Let's go weiter. So Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Lo hayu yom tevim li Yisrael. There weren't such gewaltige days for the Yidden, kechamisha asar b'Av Yom Kippurim, like the 15th day of Av, and like Yom Kippur. B'shlam Yom Kippurim. So I understand why Yom Kippur is a gewaltige day, mishum deis beis slichu mechila, because it's the day that we receive atonement. Yom Shnit Baluchas Achronis. It's the day that the second tablets were given to us. Right? The first tablets we received and were broken on the 17th of Tammuz, and then Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the mountain again for another 80 days. He came down on Yom Kippur. Rashi says something unbelievably interesting at the very end of that long Rashi. Shnit Baluchas Achronis. He says, "V'alkei nikba Yom Kippur ba'asara b'Tishrei," that the reason why Yom Kippur is on Tishrei is because that's the day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain. Ki'ilu, it's not that Yom Kippur was already predetermined to be the 10th of Tishrei. It's the other way around. It's that Ki'ilu Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain on the 10th of Tishrei with the Luchas, and that is why we sort of, in a sense, commemorate that day. Ki'ilu, that's the reason why Yom Kippur is on that day. Okay? So I understand why Yom Kippur is a gewaldige day. And the Tu B'Av Mahi, what's so special about Tu B'Av that we say that there were no happy days for the Yidden like Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av? What's Tu B'Av? Amr of Yehuda, wait, breathe. Amr Rav Yehuda Amr Shmuel. Oh, I think maybe the problem with breathing though is that it makes me tired. Because when you take a big deep breath, so it becomes a yawn. And you know what happens when you yawn. Let's go weiter. It says, reviewed in the name of Shmuel, Yom Shehuchu Shvatim Lavai Zeboze. It's the day that the tribes were permitted to marry into one another. What this means is that it says in the Torah, in the context of the daughters of Tzlofchit, that in a situation where where women inherit their father, and if they marry out of the tribe, right? So the Torah says that in that case they should not marry out of the tribe, because then they're going to lose that inheritance from their tribe. But on the 15th of Av, they said that no, anybody can marry whichever Jewish people they would like to marry. My Darush, where's the drasha come from? That this is the thing that the Eibishter said, commanded to the daughters of Tzlafcha, that they should remain within their tribe. That this specific thing, this specific thing was specifically for that generation, but not for subsequent generations. Subsequent generations, we could marry whichever Jewish individuals we would like. Amr Yosef, Amr Nachman, Yom Shuhutu Shevet Binyamin Lava Bakal. It's the day that the tribe of Benjamin was permitted to marry into the rest of the nation, because it was that whole story with Pilegesh Begiva, and then all of the Yidden got upset with Binyamin. But on Tu B'Av, it was determined that Binyamin's allowed back in. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, V'ish Yisrael Nishba B'Mitzvah Lemor, that each Jewish fellow swore, saying, Ish Mimenu Lo Yitain Bito LeBinyamin Liisha, that nobody's going to give his daughter to Benjamin for a wife. My Darush Amr Rab Mimenu V'Lo Mibonenu. And the drasha is that it says in the pasuk, Ish Mimenu Lo Yitain Bito LeBinyamin. We, our generation, we won't give our daughters to Benjamin, but our children may. Rav Babachanam Rabbi Yochanan Yom Shekalu Bo Meisei Midbar. It was the day that the people stopped dying in the desert. Of course, after the Meraglim, it was decreed that the Yidden would wander in the desert for 40 years, and anybody who was between 20 and 60 would not make it into Eretz Yisrael. They were all going to die. And it was on Tu B'Av of the final year, the 40th year in the desert, it was on Tu B'Av that all the Yidden, that the people stopped dying, and they would then enter into Eretz Yisrael. Damar Ad Shelo Kalu Meisei Midbar Lo Yedibur Emotion. It says that while the people were still dying, then the Eibishter did not speak directly with Moshe. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Vayikasher Tamu Kol Anshei Milchama Lamus, that it was when all the people stopped dying, Vayidav Hashem Eli, then the Eibishter spoke to me directly, Eli Hoya Adibur, that the speech was directly with me. So the day that the Yidden stopped dying, so that was a Gevaldige day. That was the day that the Eibishter resumed speaking directly with Moshe. That during the 40 years prior, when everybody was dying, so then the Eibishter did not speak directly with Moshe. Rashi explains in Medrash that what they would do is every year at Tisha B'Av, they would dig up graves for themselves and they would lie in it, and whoever was going to die that year would die. Now, on the 40th year in the desert, they did the same thing. Everybody dug their own graves, they lied down in it, but nobody died. So they said, that's weird, maybe we got the day wrong. So they went back into the graves the next day, and the next day, and the next day, until finally on Tu B'Av, on the 15th day of Av, they realized that this was not a coincidence, and that they stopped dying. And that's what's so special about Tu B'Av. Okay? Ula Amar says, Ula Yom Shabitel Hoshea ben Elah Puzdios Shoshiv Yoravim ben Navot Al Adrachim Shloyai Yisrael Loregel. Let's read that again. Ula Amar says, Ula, that the 15th of Av is Yom Shabitel Hoshea ben Elah, that Hoshea, the son of Elah, was Mavatal, he made null and void the Puzdios Shoshiv Yoravim ben Navot, the sort of guards that Yoravim ben Navad placed on the road, so that the Yidden shouldn't be making a pilgrimage to Jerusalem for the festivals. Yoravim ben Navad didn't want the people going to Jerusalem for the festivals, so therefore he put guards on the ways. And it says, Ula, on the 15th day of Av, Hoshea ben Elah removed those guards. And he said, that whichever one you want, you can go to. Meaning, they wanted the people to be serving the getchkis, the avodah zaros, but nonetheless, Hoshea ben Elah, he removed the guards and said, "Look, le'ezeh shir, right? What is it? Le'ezeh shir tziyaylu. Go to whichever one you want. You want to go to the Eibishter and the Beis Hamikdash? Okay, fine, beseder. If you want to go to the Beis Hamikdash, that's fine. If you want to serve the getchkis, that's encouraged. All right." Going weiter, Rav Masna Omer says, Rav Masna Yom Shenitnu Aruge Beitar Lekvura, that the 15th day of Av is the day that the people killed in Beitar, the city of Beitar, were allowed to be buried. That was a big city that was destroyed by the Romans at the the end of the Second Temple period. Tiknu b'Yavne Atov v'Ameitiv, and in Yavne they made the bracha in benching of Atov v'Ameitiv, Atov shel Yisrichu, that the Eibishter is good, that they didn't, that the bodies didn't get spoiled, v'Ameitiv shnitnu lekvura, and that he allowed them to be buried. Rabbi Rav Yosef Dam Tarvayu, Rabbi and Rav Yosef both say Yom Shepasku Milachros Eitzim L'Mayroche, that Tu B'Av is the day that they stop cutting down trees for wood for the altar. The Taanis will learn the Brayso Rabbi Eliezer God Omer says Rabbi Eliezer Michamisha also B'Av Va'elach, that from the 15th day of Av and onwards Tashash Koicha Shel Chama, the sun gets weaker. From the 15th day of Av and onwards, the sun gets weaker, and therefore it doesn't dry out the trees as well, and therefore the wood, when it gets cut down, they can get worms in it if they're not dry enough. And therefore from the 15th day of Av, they stop cutting down trees for the altar. And they would no longer cut down trees for the altar after the 15th day of Av, the Fishe'enon Yivation, because they were not dry enough. Alright. Omer of Menasha says, of Menasha v'karulei Yom Tov Magal. They called the 15th day of Av the day that the what's a magal again? Is that a sickle? I don't know, the saw, I guess, would stop. Okay? Mikan ve'elach the Mosif Yosef u'dzlo Mosif Yosef. And at this point and on, from the 15th day of Av, that the nights are getting longer, so then the Mosif Yosef, a fellow during this time period when there's more time, there's a longer night, so if he increases his Torah study, so then we will increase his life. With the low Mosif Yosef. But if he does not increase his Torah study, then we will kill him. Okay. Ma Yosef, what does it mean that we'll get killed? Rav Yosef Tikber Ime, his mother is going to bury him. Alright, so I guess it sounds like sort of we should be studying Torah at night. Alright, that sounds very nice. Ma Yosef, I'm sorry, I just did this. Shabayim Benosis Yerushalayim Chulei. And then we said that on the 15th day of Av, the Benos Yerushalayim, the daughters of Jerusalem, they would go out and they would wear white clothing and dance, and it sounds like it was a very nice thing. So Tana Rabbanon Bas Melech Shoeles Bas Kohen Gadol. So the Mishnah pointed out that the garments being worn by these girls, all the garments were borrowed. They were taka borrowed. They were taka borrowed. Right? It says V'yotzim Chaylavin She'ulin. The tafka was borrowed. Okay. Tana Rabbanan Bas Melech Shoeles Bas Kohen Gadol. So the daughter of a king borrows from the daughter of the Kohen Gadol. Bas Kohen Gadol Bas Sgan. The daughter of the Kohen Gadol borrows clothing for Tu B'Av from the daughter of the Sgan, the sort of deputy Kohen Gadol. Uvas Sgan Mibas Mishoch Mochama. The daughter of the Sgan Kohen Gadol borrows from the daughter of the Meshuach Milchama, a fellow who, kind of goes out before the wars and says, look, who's the fellow who just built a house or just got married, etc., can go home. Bas Meshuach Milchama mi bas Kohen Hedjit, and the daughter of the Meshuach Milchama, so she borrows from a regular Kohen, Bas Kohen, then all of the other Yidden, they just borrow from one another clothing for Tu B'Av, so nobody gets embarrassed if they don't have clothing for Shiva Asar, for Tu B'Av, and therefore everybody would borrow their clothing no matter who they were. Okay, and then the Mishnah had said Kol HaKelim Tunin Tvila, that all of the clothing had to go in the mikveh. Okay, even if they were folded up and stored away in a box, in the closet the whole time, right? The concern is that maybe the clothing was worn by a nida, right? Maybe it was impure. So even if it was, we're saying that even if it was folded up in a box, nonetheless, you would still, right, all of the garments they would put in the mikveh. All right. Then the Jewish girls would go out and they would dance in the vineyards. Interesting. So the Gemara says if a fellow needs a wife, so you should go there and while they're dancing out in the fields. All right. Very nice. Let's go weiter. So now we describe what these girls would be saying to the fellows who were there out in the vineyards with them. Sounds very interesting. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, the very beautiful girls would say, Mahoyu almost, what would they say? Only pay attention to good looks, because that was sort of a place where they excelled. Because a woman is only to be beautiful. Alright? I guess they're highlighting their kind of things that make them stand apart. The girls there who come from fancy families, what would they say? Pay attention to the family that I come from. Because a woman is only to produce offspring, and the offspring that will be produced from me is going to be coming from a great family. So that's special offspring. And the others among them, what would they say? Just, take, you look for a wife for the name of God, but make sure that you buy gold stuff. Interesting. I guess these other girls were saying that no, just find a good wife and buy lots of gold jewelry. All right. Ula Beira says Ula Beira Amr Belazar. Also, the Kadosh Baruch Hu asks Machal at Tzadikim. Then in the future, the Eibush is going to make a circle for the Tzadikim. V'yoshev b'neim b'Gan Eden. The Eibush is going to sit among them in the Garden of Eden. And each one of these tzaddikim is going to point out with his finger. Shenema, as the pasuk says, he will say on that day, this is our God. Kivinu lo v'yoshenu, we hoped for him and he saved us. Zeh Hashem kivinu lo. This is the Eibishter, we hoped for him. So we will rejoice and be happy in his salvation. Hajan Allah b'shlosha prakim uslika lo masechta Taanis. We'll come back to Shlosha Prakim, and we have completed Masechta Taanis. Friends, that was Daf Lamed Aleph of Masechta Taanis. We had a few different opinions about what was so gishmak about Tu B'Av, and then we saw at the end a description of the dancing that was happening in the vineyards on Tu B'Av as well. So it sounds very interesting. Friends, that was Masechta Taanis. As I mentioned earlier, when I think back on Masechta Taanis, I think about being sick a lot. interestingly. But I think it was a super interesting masechta. Very fun, very enjoyable, and a lot of interesting agaritas, specifically about like different Amoraim who lived at different points, or Tanoim, different Tanoim and even Amoraim who lived. Some of them lived even during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, which is unbelievable. Anyways, that was Masechta Taanis. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace out.